Good afternoon, Dale Flatt here. We're having another installment of Joe Fairview and Austin Code Compliance. It is Sunday afternoon. We're out here at the parking lot. This is where the Code Compliance officers park their cars over the weekend. None of them work on the weekends. And you'll check out some of the other videos where you can see where they actually illegally park some of their trucks and trailers out here. And it isn't the first time I've had to come out here and turn in a code violation to the Code Compliance Department. So today's installment, we want to talk about what happened over at Lot Avenue to a homeowner. You've seen the video on YouTube. Austin Code Compliance executes an illegal search warrant. If you haven't seen it, look for it. There's two online, the long version and then the 3-minute version, which is hysterical. Well, as funny as it can be, because the homeowner speeds up the action. So in 3 minutes, you actually get to see quite a bit of what happened. And he puts music to it, and it's just funny as can be. But it actually isn't funny what happened to this homeowner. And like many homeowners, once they're done with the nightmare that can be a code compliance complaint, he's just so glad to be done with it, he just washes his hands of it. Although he is somewhat on board, he has provided me with a lot of the information, all of his communications to and from Code Compliance, all of his emails. I have a copy, as well as the case logs. Over 40 open records requests were done to get this information. We're doing this because the city manager's office refuses to sit down and talk to us about it. And so today's installment is Chris Maldonado. He's the young man who first started off this case. So anyway, it started off like most complaints. Some neighbor did not take the time to talk to his neighbor about a concern. Instead, they dialed 311 and generated a code compliance complaint. Christopher Maldonado, he uses Chris in the logs. Chris was assigned the case 2 days later and went to investigate the complaint. Nobody was home. Again, code compliance guys work Monday through Thursday. Some of them work on a Friday, but they never work on the weekends. Nobody's assigned to work on the weekends. And so nobody's home. The guy's at work. The department policy is very clear on what to do and how to view complaints only from what they call an approved vantage point. And we'll put these on the Joe Fairview website. Everything I talk about, all the documents, will be on the Joe Fairview website. And if the inspector doesn't have permission to come onto the property, he's to leave a notice on the door, walk from the street up to the front door, leave a notice on the door, and leave. And the complaints were in the backyard. Not being able to view the backyard from the approved vantage point, he should have left the notice on the door asking the homeowner to contact him. But that's not what happened. Chris went against city policy and the 4th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and set off with his camera through the gate of the side yard of the house, and into the backyard to conduct an investigation without consent of the property owner or a valid search warrant. 18 photos start to document this case of trespassing and civil rights violations. Chris then proceeded to write up the owner for violations that were not only non-violations, such as, you need a permit for that flagpole, and I think your barbecue pit's hooked up to the gas line, that's a violation. These were never part of the original complaint. He then proceeded to make entries into his case log for events that he cannot support with documentation. Again, when you're creating a case log, the Code Compliance Handbook is very clear. You're creating a record that could go into the courts. So you need to document everything and be very precise and back up all your information. In the open records request, we find that Chris couldn't supply some of the emails or some of the statements that he made, talked to the owner, sent the owner an email. When I asked for those things, there are no documents pursuant to my request. And over the course of several months, he would not only come back several times to find the owner had locked the gates out of frustration. And again, we're talking about a guy who is an engineer over at the university, who is very well educated, who knew what he was building and knew he didn't need permits for it, but yet the Code of Compliance was insistent that they were going to come into his backyard. Again, look at the website and you'll see all the documentation. You go to the website, joefairview.com, go to table of contents, and roll down and click on Chris Maldonado's name, and you'll be able to see everything. We invite you to view the supporting documentation at joefairview.com, and we have a blog section. You go ahead and leave a blog there, or email me at joefairview@gmail.com to weigh in on this inspector's work. And again, the YouTube website, or the YouTube video on this is what started this video, is the Austin Code Compliance executes an illegal search warrant. So Chris did a very poor job of doing this. You'll see in the documentation where the second time he came back unannounced without an appointment, and he actually wrote in his log, couldn't get into the backyard, the gates are locked. He was surprised. And so here's a gentleman who we have all of his training records. Through open records, not only we have all of his training records, so I know every class he's ever taken as a code enforcement inspector for the city of Austin, I have all the training material. So I know when he took the class, how he took the class, but he knowingly and willingly violated department policy and the Fourth Amendment rights to be secure in your property from illegal search and seizure warrants by coming onto this guy's property. So Mr. Maldonado is same as like Mr. Mills and so many of the other code compliance people I've dealt with in the past, and in looking at cases, either they're incompetent or they just don't care. And the problem is, in code compliance, there is no checks and balances. I've filed complaints on inspectors, not Mr. Maldonado. Well, actually, I have filed a complaint against Mr. Maldonado. But in past, I filed complaints on inspectors via email, waited a couple of weeks, and then asked for a copy of that email back, and they've magically lost them. So this is one of the things we need to have is a checks and balance systems. We have city codes for a reason, and I'm not against city codes. I'm against inspectors who come out and make things up as they come along, or don't bother to do the work and take the paycheck home. So if you've had a problem with Christopher Maldonado, this segment is dedicated to him. I want to hear from you. joefairview@gmail.com. Go to the Joe Fairview website, blog it. We need to make sure that this type of mistreatment of the citizens, as it were, or just plain abuse stops. So again, thank you for tuning in. Check out the website, and I look forward to talking to you about the next case. Thanks.